The news has just come out that the U.S. will provide cluster munitions to Ukraine as part of a new military aid package. The Associated Press has a long story on this, and the reporters pressed the Pentagon, supposedly, on this development.
On cluster munitions, you talked about the dud rate. John Kirby in December of 2022 also talked about that the U.S. as a policy has concerns about cluster munitions being used. Besides the dud rate, what are the other concerns that the U.S. would have if these munitions are transferred to Ukraine? Thanks.
Well, I appreciate the question, Jim. Again, I don't want to get out ahead of any potential announcement. I think that, if and when a decision is made, we'll have more to say on that. All right, let me go to Idris from Reuters.
Okay, separate from any decision or non-decision on the cluster munitions, last month, Laura Cooper said that there were issues with congressional restrictions and concerns from allies. Have those concerns been allayed, and have those congressional restrictions been overcome right now? Again, separate from any decision or non-decision, have those hurdles been overcome as we speak today?
Yeah, thanks, Idris. And again, not to be obtuse here, but because the DPICMs are under consideration, when and if we have an announcement to make, we'll be able to provide more details in terms of the process to include the coordination on that front. But until a decision has been made and something's been announced, I just don't want to get ahead of that process.
Okay, so these are stupid questions, and you're going to get stupid answers. We are expanding a war with a nuclear superpower. What could possibly happen? Oh, that's right. Vladimir Putin could order nuclear weapons detonated as we add more advanced weapons to the battlefield. Who is in charge of the western end of the Ukraine war? This contradicts everything we've been told about this war. If Russia is losing the Ukraine war, and that's been the story since day one of their invasion of Ukraine, then why does Ukraine need better weapons to kill Russian conscripts? That should have been the very next question asked of the Pentagon. Did they ask it?
All right, let me go back to the room here. Let me go to Fadi and then come over here.
General, so I'm not going to talk about the decision, but I'm going to talk about the process of consideration of these munitions. When did the Pentagon and the White House, National Security Council start thinking about these as a potential aid for Ukraine? And is this process of consideration related to any difficulties Ukrainians are facing in this counteroffensive? And is it meant, if a decision is made, to help them address some of these difficulties?
Yeah, let me just kind of break your question into two parts here. So in the first part, I don't have a timeline to provide you. As you know, throughout the course of this conflict, we've had regular discussions with the Ukrainians, regular discussions with our allies and partners in terms of what are the kinds of capabilities that Ukraine needs on the battlefield.
Look how many campaign ribbons this guy has. How many campaign ribbons do you need to lie to the American people? This guy's talking about the weapons capabilities that Ukraine needs, but you've been telling the American people that Russia's in retreat, Russia's losing, Russia can't win, Russia's doomed, and yet you need to ship cluster munitions to the battlefield. I've got all sorts of questions I could be asking if I was at this mission briefing. For instance, why didn't we use cluster munitions to stop the Taliban from seizing Kabul? Oh, that's right. We quit and run from that war, and Joe Biden handed everything over to the Taliban so that they could abuse the civil population and take away all rights from women, children, and gays and transgenders in Afghanistan. That's not the problem of the Biden administration. And that move told Vladimir Putin that the time was right to invade. Watch what happens when a reporter asks a very simple question of Joe Biden at the onset of the invasion of Ukraine. This is from last year.
Are you waiting on Putin to make the first move, sir?
No, it's not what a stupid question. It's what a stupid president. Because his advisors must have told him that selling weapons to Ukraine and building more weapons for this war was good business for the Western arms dealers. That's why Biden is laughing this question off. It's hilarious to him. Oh, it's so hilarious. My friends are going to get rich off of this war, is Biden's only thought. Who cares if children start picking up these cluster munitions?
Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people refused to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principle, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Those are the same words Joe Biden used against Donald Trump when Joe Biden was a presidential candidate in 2020.
For love is more powerful than hate, hope is more powerful than fear, and light is more powerful than dark. This is our moment. This is our mission. May history be able to say that the end of this chapter of American darkness began here tonight, as love and hope and light join in the battle for the soul of the nation.
He thinks he's talking about Donald Trump, and he uses the same exact speech against Vladimir Putin. Nobody called Biden on this. Nobody went to these generals and said, why is Biden using the same language, the same exact speech against Putin that he used against Donald Trump? How many Ukraine children will pick up these cluster bomblets? No one asks. No one cares.
As I highlighted at the top here, DPICMs are a capability that is under consideration. While I'm not going to get into the specifics of those discussions, I think what DPICMs bring to a battlefield is anti-armor and anti-personnel capability.
Buddy, Ukraine children will be picking up these cluster bomblets for decades to come and getting blown to bits by them. I wish I could support this war and support the Western democracies in this war against Russia. But who is it that told Putin the time to invade was now? It was this knucklehead, because Putin saw the weakness of the NATO alliance and the weakness of the United States under the inept, clueless leadership of Joe Biden.
Are you waiting on Putin to make the first move, sir?
What a stupid idiot in charge of this war. I hope that we don't see nuclear exchanges in World War III as a result of Joe Biden's stupidity on parade as this war drags on. I'd like to close with this, and I'm really putting this not so much on this spokesman and not so much on Joe Biden. Every reporter at this press conference should be closing with, General, how does using cluster bomblets in Ukraine bring us any closer to the end of the war and a resolution of peace between the combatants? Nobody asked that because we don't have any reporters who actually work for the American people. These reporters, their only job is to run interference for the Democratic Party against the Republicans running the House of Representatives. That's on the mind of every journalist at this briefing. How can I help stop the Republicans from scoring any points against our heroes in the Democratic Party running this war? And that's what these reporters consider the basis for their journalism. And it sucks and it's disgusting. Thank you.